All right, good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. We do have a little bit of a kind of a micro pullback today. You are pretty one directional yesterday, at least during the actual day, not the pre-market. Pretty one directional the day before as well. So now we just have that kind of balance, waiting for the market to kind of catch up, the buyers to catch up, I guess you would say. We have a little bit of a D shape. If it stays above, I'd say 38, or if you want to take the more local level, probably around like 68, then it's pretty bullish going back into that prior value, which is pretty old at this point. This value goes back to the 16th. So keep an eye on that. 16th back to 77 and 613. If you stay below 38, we go back into a value retrace, back into the POC, which is around 511. Then you have the value low, which is around 473. Then you have the low of day of Friday, which is around 430. You're just kind of taking it level by level as you're retracing downward, if it does, right? If it does start that retrace. But yeah, for now, a little bit of a micro pullback. Just see how it responds to that kind of 38 to 40 area. Which, by the way, we do have a gap up, so keep an eye on that gap. That retrace downward would also fill in the gap to the downside, which goes back to around 19 or like 500. Okay, same exact story on NASDAQ. The only difference is you've already started the retrace on the value high here, which is also starting that gap fill. So keep an eye on the value low and the low of day, back down to 215 and then somewhere around like 100. The gap has pretty much been filled in unless you take the actual close. It needs a little bit more. Yeah, still looking for those rotations, that micro pullback style rotation until you break out a value, which, like I said, on NASDAQ, you're kind of already doing that. So it's slightly bearish here if it stays below that 505. NASDAQ just a few candles ahead of ES. We have been seeing that a lot recently. Losing VWAPs is still aiming towards that value of Friday here. Watch this back test of VWAP here. See if they want to sell that 56 to like 60 area. Good morning, everybody. One in the future. MU, Scott, Lubomir, Tamer. Good morning, Banana, Julio, Jeff. Good morning, Larry, Joan, Peter. Good morning, Greg, Music, Roma, Hike, Crown, Jazz. Good morning, eBay. Yao, Blood, Leslie, Anthony, ATF, Scott. Good morning, Ray. Good morning, Jay. TK, Tom. Sebastian, Sam. Yeah, if you ever think I'm muted, just look at the bottom left. That's why I put that sound wave there. If the sound wave is moving, I'm not muted. No sellers on VWAP whatsoever. Very strong buy pressure, actually. A lot of buyers coming in. Do we have any data after the bell today? Let's take a look. We do, actually. 9:45 and 10 a.m. And then it's a fairly quiet week until like Friday, but we do have a lot of earnings. We don't have a ton of economic data, but we do have a bunch of earnings coming out, so watch out for that. I believe it's mostly Wednesday and Thursday. Yeah, a little bit of data throughout the week, mostly earnings. Buyers getting absolutely no resistance here. They're just blowing through these levels. No sellers up here. This is that gap fill on NASDAQ. They are bouncing off that gap fill. Needs to stay back above like 510, then you can get outside of value. So you're not stuck inside that overlap. You are not in value on ES. You're still outside of it, comparing it to Friday, obviously. So as long as they stay above 40, they have that slight bullish bias. Still mostly looking for rotations until that break of value. Looks like services are doing pretty good. The chip companies, not so much. Amazon, I think it was breaking, what, 2 or 3 trillion for the first time ever? 3 trillion? Pretty big gain there. Good morning, D, Ryder, Hugo, Bella. Appreciate you guys being here. Good morning. Oh, by the way, guys, I did not pull the raffle winners for our monthly raffle. Oh, you should be seeing that later today. I was very busy this weekend. Okay, you are reacting to VWAP on NASDAQ. You did not react on ES. Buy pressure went straight through it. A little bit of a reaction on NQ, but still pretty bullish. This would be a bad variation, meaning the buyers are very strong into VWAP. So not the best bear flag into VWAP, but for now it is holding. Get a couple of VWAP failures on the pre-market, one around, looks like 5 a.m., and then one around like London Open. Sam, I would normally say you're too late, but I didn't have time to pull it this weekend, so you should be fine. Good morning, Henry. Good morning, Adam. So you are still getting that reaction on NASDAQ here. So this is the first line of failure. We always talk about that first point. Like whenever you take a trade, there's always that first sign of failure. Like what is that level that could break the trade right away? And for the VWAP trade, it's the EMAs. So you're testing those EMAs right now. You are getting a little bit of buy pressure off of those EMAs. So the trade is still looking a little bit weak. Like I said, it's kind of a bad variation. It's still not a bad trade. It's just a bad version of the trade. Like it's a worse version of it. It also doesn't help you that ES is trying to uptrend, but you are on that value high. So as long as the D shape respects the rotations, it should not be staying above 70. Morning, Sam. Trying to get through those VWAPs now. If it stays below that daily VWAP, you are still looking for that prior low. Same thing you always do with the VWAP trades. Oh, you do have a pivot helping you on ES, right on that value high. I put out a short this weekend talking about the different styles of using the Momo for more trend trading or more like reversal trading. Be sure to check that out if you haven't already. What's today, the 3rd? And by the way, I do like that new schedule of the shorts where we put them out on the weekend instead of throughout the whole week. So we will be sticking to that moving forward. I think my editor, it makes it a lot easier for him as well. Okay, value high still protecting you here, still in that rotation, even though it is pretty volatile for rotations. Keep it on that value low around like 53. It is a pretty compact value area. It's not very wide. It's only about 10 points. The shorts are getting better editing wise, smoother. Yeah, he's trying out like new things. He's doing like just little changes here and there, seeing what works. We're still like in like the testing phase of like he's just trying out a bunch of different things. Once he finds what he likes, he'll just keep it like a normal template. But yeah, I think he does a good job. Yeah, Jay, you were actually the first one. Because a lot of the shorts I'm like answering someone's question in chat. So we're gonna try to start putting the actual message if I can find it in the chat. We're gonna try to put it on the short so people know who I'm responding to. Yeah, I'm glad you didn't mind because I was worried about putting people's like names on there. I was gonna like blur the name out or something. But it is like their public YouTube name, so I don't really see a problem in it. Double tapping that VWAP here. You're still stuck between those EMAs, that first point of failure. Very important day. We talked about this last week. Very important to see where today closes because we are trying to break that structure, like the daily highs being protected, every single day making a new low. We started breaking that structure on Thursday, just barely. Then we put in a micro pullback on Friday, so that doesn't really confirm the break. And technically, we are still stuck inside that micro pullback. So once again, not really confirming the break here. So this very easily can turn into a trap if there's like some kind of bad news. So keep an eye on that. It looks better on ES. You're bouncing off that April VWAP, and you're not so much in a micro pullback back to back. It's kind of gaining a little bit of value. So it does look slightly better on ES, but still a potential for a trap until we close a lot stronger. A big help here is oil is going down. It failed those VWAPs pretty much perfectly. If you take the VWAPs from kind of the whole Iran thing starting, that's where we failed. So we bounced off the gap up. We hit the VWAPs. We failed that value retrace. So we did not retrace that massive distribution. It failed that retrace, right? Now we're putting in a lower high and we're pushing lower on oil. So that is helping buyers quite a bit. Then you also have the dollar coming down very rapidly. That's also helping the buyers. So big things for the sellers this week. Obviously, we have a little bit of data. Some data just came out right now. But we have a lot of earnings as well. Those big tech companies that are a part of the bubble, a lot of earnings this week for those companies. So those could bring us down, right? We'll keep an eye on those. We did have some data there. The bigger data is at 10 o'clock. 53.9 over 53.8. The PMI comes out at 10 o'clock, and then that's pretty much it for today. Couple of block trades here. Good morning, Scooby. Still holding on to those EMAs here, which should not be happening. That's the easiest way to see a break of balance. When you should be hitting that value high, losing the EMAs, going back down. Instead of doing that, it's using the EMAs and those candle lows as support. So it's trending, right? That's a trending move. If you're protecting EMAs, if you're protecting one side of the candle, you're trending. So balancing is not trending, right? So you're kind of breaking balance here. You can also see they're building a strong node. It's like a P-shaped profile now. Building a strong node here and not allowing it to go back through that node. Still getting extremely wide opening ranges. This first session is ridiculously wide. Yeah, it is kind of a gap fill, and then you're just like launching off the gap on NASDAQ. You're not really seeing that on ES, or nowhere even near the gap on ES. And if we take the actual gap level, we go to the 1 minute chart, that's the best way to see the actual gap. If we grab this actual gap level here, it is 506 to be exact. Here is our 77 level on ES, possibly 99 coming up. Yeah, you're not missing much. It's not like a massive setup here. It's mostly just a rotation that failed, right? So this was a rotation, so you started bouncing off the value low, value high. So if you traded the first rotation here, you caught most of the move up. But then if you close at the value high, you're missing the breakout because this move back down, which was actually this move here. So value high, tried to go to value low, bounced off the EMAs. This was the move that failed the rotation. So this is just a rotation move. Fail to rotate, then a breakout of value. That's all that's happening today so far. A very wide A session here, still going here. You do have data coming out at 10 o'clock, so watch out for that. These block trades are being protected, so very strong block trades. Typically do not like to see them on high of day, but those are immediately being protected. Be careful with that data coming out. They're not finding a ton of value up here so far. Going to finish our trade plan very quickly if this data is bullish here. You can see what I mean by like paying attention to the EMAs when you're trying to rotate. You see how we like hit, this is actually below the value low. So we like broke the value low. We started bouncing off of it once we reclaimed it. And then you notice how it immediately breaks the EMAs. You don't really stay below them for very long. That's because you're rotating, right? That's very normal. But then it starts to come down here after hitting the value high. It immediately bounces off the EMAs. You could even say bounces kind of off of VWAP as well. That starts a failure to rotate, leaning bullish, obviously. And then look at the change there. Then we start trending like crazy, and we break out of that value high, and now we're just finding higher value. So always pay attention to that reaction of those EMAs when you're supposed to be rotating. This is that data, by the way. $55.6 over 54, and then 71.1 over 70, so both higher than expected. The dollar is going up a little bit. So it follows the dollar correlation that is slightly bearish. Oh yeah, I got a funny story for you guys over the weekend. If you guys have been watching me for 2 or 3 years, you'll remember this. So a couple of years ago, I bought that iPhone. And remember I told you guys it was sitting on my desk forever and I never even activated it. I think I've had it for like 3 years and it's been sitting on my desk. And I've been using my old iPhone ever since. And I got it because it was like a really good deal. I think I paid for like $400 for it, when at the time it was like $1,000. So it was like a Black Friday deal or something. But I just procrastinated. I never got it activated. I never moved my stuff over to the new phone. So it's just been sitting on my desk completely sealed for like 3 years. But then my current phone finally is starting to like give me problems. It like has a couple of dead pixels on it, which I've like never seen before on iPhones. I have like dead pixels on the top of the screen. And then my battery is like pretty bad. So I finally went to the AT&T store and I was like, okay, let's see how much they'll give me for this phone that's been sitting on my desk for years. And they actually have like insane trade-in value right now because the whole chip thing, right? So they gave me $1,100 for that phone traded in, which is funny because it's technically used because I've had it. And once a person has it, even if it's not open, they consider it used. So even though it's completely sealed, they still consider it used. And they still gave me $1,100 for it. So after all those years, some would call it procrastination, but I guess we can call it investing, right? I made like $700 just leaving that thing on my desk for a couple of years. Which in the end, was it worth it? Probably not. That was probably really stupid. I should have opened it and used it right away. But yeah, I thought that was funny because I've been talking about that damn phone sitting on my desk for so damn long. Finally turn it in, and it actually was worth it in the end. Yeah, it's pretty funny they consider it used, even though it's like literally sealed. Because they don't know, you could have resealed it, right? I thought about like selling it on the, just like the normal market because they might give me more. because it's sealed. But yeah, $1,100 for a quote unquote used phone is kind of crazy. Well, I'm trading it in for a new phone. Sorry, I should have clarified that. So I'm finally getting the new iPhone, which is funny, terrible timing. The newer iPhone literally comes out in like a month. Um, but you guys know me, I don't like getting all the fancy new stuff. I'd rather have the thing that's been tested for a year than get a brand new thing. Um, so I am getting the new iPhone that's currently the newest, which is what, the 17 or whatever it is. But there's literally a brand new one coming out, I think, like next month. Come on, Ringo. 70% of your money? What do you mean? That was like way more than I paid for it. I paid what, 400 or 500 for it, and they gave me 1100. I'm pretty much getting the brand new phone for free, damn near, for just having an old one sitting on my desk for a few years. The phones nowadays are kind of like that. Like they have insane trade-in value. Like if you want to get a new phone and you still have your old phone in good condition, they damn near give you the same price for your old one. Still very bullish here, protecting this upper node, not allowing it to keep rotating. If it stays below that 82, it's a lot weaker. You want a Ringo? I couldn't tell you, Leslie. I don't make any predictions on like data or anything like that. Especially not in this market. This market, you really have to take it kind of day by day. You want a D? Yeah, last couple of weeks were very heavily driven by earnings and like back end stuff, not just purely technical front end stuff that you're seeing on the screen, which is a big problem for a lot of people. I'm not sure, Leslie. I haven't looked into what went down. It sounds like the most stereotypical fund blowing up story that exists. Like it's literally the blueprint for those funds. It's some kind of young prodigy. They have this like really good prediction, which he was like one of the first guys talking about the supply chain crisis, and he obviously made a lot of money off of it in the beginning. So he had this really good prediction. He over leveraged like crazy. The bubble popped a little bit, which it hasn't even like fully popped. It just popped a little bit from the high. But because he was so over leveraged, he had to get out of his positions basically. Yeah, very stereotypical story. I don't see a whole lot at face value that is different from a lot of those funds blowing up. I don't even think he like completely blew up. I have to like look into the actual details. I think he just closed a lot of his positions because he was taking a lot of heat. I don't think it was like a he went bankrupt type of thing, but I'm not sure. It's like the GameStop story all over again, right? They didn't sell the top and let it come back down and lost a lot of the money. Yeah, Citadel bought up pretty much his entire portfolio for cheap. We're gonna have to extend our targets here. We're gonna hit our trade plan targets very early. Extended targets are very simple, 13 and 32. But yeah, I did see that the Citadel team was like trying to uh, make something happen with the rates to pressure his position more. That was a little bit sleazy, but that's the definition of that business, right? That's like the most cutthroat shark business there is. 613 and 632 here. Still looking for 99. Yeah, of course, like right when they bought it up, it was like the local bottom, exactly. Yep. It definitely does look a bit manipulated on the chart for sure. I don't know if it's the entire bottom, but it's like the local bottom. They're still going down though. Like the trend is still pretty bearish. There was a little bit of a bull div, funny enough, like right when he capitulated. A lot of these companies have earnings this week. AMD, SanDisk, Western Digital, and I think that's it. So a lot of the memory companies, which are driving the entire bubble, right? Oh yeah, T, sorry, I just saw your question. How can you filter out like these weeks? So a lot of the times it is earnings season. So you got to watch out for earnings season, like when the big companies are having earnings. If the big sector is having earnings, like right now, the sector is the chip companies. You got to watch out for monthly closes. Monthly closes are bad. You have to watch out for FOMC weeks. And why was the last week or two so bad? It was all of those things at one time. Monthly close, FOMC, a lot of data, a lot of earnings. I mean, you name it, it happened in the last like week or two. So you just gotta keep up to date with the calendar, basically. Watch out for big data and monthly closes, quarterly closes, that sort of thing. You also had the headlines with Japan. That was a big problem. So that was kind of like a mini black swan event where it was not expected. The last like week or two, we've had a heavy correlation with the dollar. And the only reason we had that was because, well, I wouldn't say only reason, because you had all that other stuff I mentioned. But a big reason was the Japanese yen story. The intervention, right? So yeah, unfortunately, in this business, it's just keeping up to date with all the bullshit. The news, like the Japanese yen thing, and then all the data in the calendar. It was not a very technical week or last 2 weeks. There was a lot of back end stuff happening. Well, yeah, it's like the saying, fear the old soldier, right? That's kind of the same thing with like the really ancient uh, hedge funds and the managers that have been around for decades. They've seen a thing or two. These young guys, they have great ideas, they've got great tech, they've got that very high um, ability to take risk, I guess you would say. But then because of that risk, they make a lot of mistakes. He was just a little over leveraged. He was perfectly right on the idea, right? The idea was spot on, but the leverage was just too much. People are also doing like the number one thing they always do with those headlines, where they're saying, like, oh, he grew a fund from this number to this number. And they're saying it as if it's all profit. Like his starting number and his ending number in between is 100% profit because that's what builds the headline. That's what gets the clicks. But that's not the true story. The true story is a lot of that in between money is more investment. He still had a ridiculous profit, don't get me wrong. The profit is insane. I think it was like 400+% or something. But it wasn't like the thousands of percent that the headlines try to claim because he went from this number to this number. If I start with $1 billion and then I get 10 billion in further investments and then I grow it to 20 billion, my profit is not as much as you think. You see what I'm saying? It's not nearly 20 billion in profit. And that's kind of what the headlines are doing. They do that with every single fund. Whenever a fund blows up, like look at Kathy, they did the same thing with Kathy. In Kathy, same thing. She had good returns, but a lot of that money was just more investments. It wasn't profit. And same exact thing happened to Kathy to an extent. She didn't blow up, right? But she had massive outflows. Once that first like big dip happened, her ETFs had massive outflows. Here's our 99 target, by the way. So I already posted the extended targets, 613 and 632. Come on, Lucio. Yeah, T, it's just a lot to keep up with sometimes. And that might be the benefit of like the single name futures, like people that want to just trade like one name instead of the whole market. But a lot of the times with the big names, like if you're doing that on Microsoft or Apple or whatever, you're basically just trading NASDAQ anyway. I mean, it follows NASDAQ like almost to a T. There's no way to avoid it, really. You're going to have a calendar up at all times, and you're going to have a news feed where you're keeping track of all the little things. That's just the market that we are in, and it's not going to change. It's only going to probably get harder or get worse because our ability to gather information is getting very, very good, right? So the impact of that information on the market is probably going to get worse. Or worse is not the right word, probably more impactful. Because more people can gather that information, they can turn that information into trades, they can trade. And them trading pushes the market around. Good morning, Olive. Yeah, but the problem is we're trying to use like basic trading methods and like techniques on a multi-billion-dollar firm, right? They're not doing stop losses and targets and shit like that. They're doing things that completely change the ecosystem of the market, like the chip problem, the supply chain problem. They're looking at a lot more variables than we are. You want to Schwab? Yeah, Anthony, those are the extended targets. Our trade plan's complete already. If you guys are just coming in, you didn't miss much. Started as a D shape, rotation, rotation. This right here was the failure to rotate. So rotation, rotation, failure to rotate. And because we failed to rotate, you started a trend, and you've been in a trend ever since. That's the only thing you've missed. Good morning, V. Any news behind the uptrend? I mean, you could argue it's just the same old Iran shit. If you want to tie it to like something. Oil's coming down a lot, dollar's coming down, so correlated markets are pushing us up. morning, Mauser. Yeah, another 3-day ceasefire. It's not really the ceasefires and all that bullshit. It's just the oil. The market's not really reacting too much to the headlines themselves. It's just reacting to oil. And oil is coming down pretty rapidly. You're not seeing it in gas prices, obviously, because you keep going back up. Gas prices are very slow. Hopefully, oil goes back down to like 70. And that would bring gas prices slowly back down to like 3.25. Yeah, just oil and the dollar. These two markets right here. They're just kind of nuking. Want to Faraj? Want to stream? Yeah, it's just so fast going up. It's so slow to coming down. Yep. It's because the way they buy it, right? You got to think about how they buy oil, how long it takes to get there, how it's stored, all that. Just the supply chain. Just think about the supply chain. It's not instant. The supply chain makes it very slow, and then obviously, if they can keep prices a little bit higher for a little bit longer, that helps them out as well. Hurts us, it hurts the consumer. I'm just telling you why they do it, right? Yeah, Lioness is good. I like that show. The new season started last week, I think, or this week. It's Zoe Saldana, right? She's everything she's in. She's good. You have one at 18. 18. I might have missed a level. Let me see. Doesn't look like it, unless you're using this one. That one's already taken out. These are all taken out. Everything from here is taken out. They've all been tested. Yeah, if you just started, the first season's very good. I think the first season's better than the second season. It's kind of how all of Taylor Sheridan's shows go, because he pumps the shows out so fast. The first season is usually the best, and then they just kind of go downhill after that. Yeah, season 1 is very good. Season 2 is not bad. It's just 1 is very good, so it's hard to kind of beat 1. Yeah, the drones in the new season, yeah. And that's dumbed down massively. The drones are much, much faster in person. Like, that's obviously done for, like, TV and drama and all that. Single print's going down to 91 here. Trend is still stable. Trend is very stable, actually. They're doing a fantastic job building nodes. Very strong node up here at 97. Yeah, Game of Thrones is very sad. I wish they would, like, pretend it didn't happen and just redo it. But too late now. That was years ago. House of the Dragon's okay. I don't mind House of the Dragon. It's a lot slower. It's kind of like the early seasons of Game of Thrones, just a lot of slow kind of talking. It still gives you the vibes, though. Same vibes. No, Flory, I haven't seen that one. Yeah, it is the start of the month, so you're getting a lot of like rebalancing, big boy action. POC shifted already. It just goes back to what I said earlier today. You really got to watch those EMAs when you're rotating, because once you start respecting them like that, and you fail that rotate, you're starting a trend, right? You're starting a break of balance. And you can see how strong that break of balance is here. NASDAQ was way below ES. You were already back into that gap. But now we are outside of that value. So still looking for that 806 breakout. You're right on that overnight high here. Yeah, I think that was one that was on my list. I think I saw like a trailer or something for that. It looked okay. I haven't had a ton of time recently. I haven't been watching too many shows. I watched like that first episode of Lioness. I think it was yesterday. And that's like the only thing I've watched recently. Oh, I was watching that new Apple show, which once again, man, I can't stand Apple shows. I think Apple shows are just terrible. I don't know what it is. I just can't do it. I finished the Cape Fear yesterday, I think it was as well. And it started out okay, but it got really, really dumb at the end. I think the only Apple show I think is genuinely good is Severance. Yeah, I liked From at first. From was okay, but then it started giving me, which is hilarious because I didn't know it was made by the Lost people. And once I found that out, I lost a lot of interest in it because it was giving me Lost vibes. And I was like, oh, maybe it's like Lost, but it's actually going to like give you payoffs. It's going to explain the weird things that are happening. It's going to like there's got to be something for the suspense, right? You can't just have suspense for nothing. You can't just have suspense and then more suspense and then more suspense. There has to be a payoff. You have to explain shit a little bit. And that's where Lost started losing me. Is they were just making that shit up as they were writing it. It didn't have a lot of payoffs. And that's where From is, that's what it's turning into. Or it's just like suspense, 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 not a lot of payoff. I haven't seen the new season though, so I'm not sure if it gets better. Right now, they are rotating this node, but they are leaning bullish. They are not allowing it to finish their rotation to the bottom part of the node, back to like 93-ish. Yeah, Chebby, it's like we're getting it right now. A lot of suspense, nothing's happening. You have a lot of LVNs today. Like where they're finding value is extremely strong. They're building very strong nodes, but in between the nodes, the LVNs are very small. That new Severance season should be coming out pretty soon. Been quite a while since the last season. We are very, very close to 25K subs. If you guys enjoy the stream and you haven't subbed already, I would appreciate that if you guys want to continue to watch the streams and see the videos, etc. I think we're like 30 subs away. Not too bad. We started getting really into YouTube around like 2020, 2021. So it's been about 5-6 years. First couple of years of streaming, if you guys are like OGs back in the day, it was pretty much all on Twitch. I posted an occasional video on YouTube every now and then, but it was pretty much all Twitch. Then I quickly realized that Twitch was not the platform for my style of content. Twitch is a lot younger, more of that TikTok style shit. Then I switched over to YouTube, which was a great time to change because that's when COVID happened and a lot of people were at home and watching videos on YouTube and stuff. Is that a show, T? No, I haven't heard of that. Oh, a platform. Gotcha. No, I haven't seen that. I've gotten that sounds familiar. They might have messaged me. I've gotten a few like partnership requests from platforms like that, like teaching platforms, mentorship stuff. But I haven't really looked into them too much. I get offers all the time from like all these different things, and it's not like I'm not like saying no because the platform's bad. I'm not saying no because of the money or anything. I just genuinely like what I do now. I like my routine. I like just doing the YouTube thing and the Discord, and every time I try to add something else, like we tried to add the Substack, it just doesn't go well. It kind of breaks my routine. If it ain't broke, right? Incredibly stable trend here. You're just not seeing any fight back. The 5-minute lows are being protected every single candle. The sellers are not even getting past the strongest node. We keep putting in a stronger node and a stronger node and a stronger node, and they're not even losing one node. They are constantly protecting their highest node. Very, very strong move. Next level, it's 613 coming up. No, the Wii thing is just a streaming habit. Like when streamers say we, they're referring to like the community, like everything as a whole. And I just picked that up from watching a lot of streams throughout the years, and it just kind of stuck and it's hard to break. It also got worse like during COVID because there was a we, right? We had a whole group of people in the Discord with like different analysts and doing a lot of stock trading and stuff like that. So then I would say we because there were more people. So now it just kind of stuck. Yeah, it's all me except for the shorts. The shorts my buddy edits. Other than that, it's 100% just me. Yeah, it's also just not as personal. Like if I constantly say I or I like constantly talk about myself, it's just too personal. It just feels weird. I think saying we is just less personal. It's better. Have we even tested the 24? Like we had the test right here. That was the failure to rotate. We haven't even touched it since then. That's how strong this move is. And that's why I call the 80 the aggressive one and the 24 EMA the more passive, responsive one. Because you can see how aggressive we are, just kind of hovering around that 80 and just pushing it higher. Starting to show a little bit of weakness here. They're not getting as aggressive pushing off of these nodes. Still protecting that highest node, so yet again, not losing the most aggressive node. The dollar is pushing up pretty hard the last, like, 3 candles, the last hour or so. But you're not seeing that direct correlation like we were last week. So normally with trends like this, you want to see when it loses 2 major nodes. That's kind of when it starts to get very weak. Or not even losing 1 major node. You still have those single prints. So if you do start seeing sell pressure, just keep an eye on those single prints going back down to 91. Did we have single prints above us that we filled in? Or I think they're all below us, aren't they? Yeah, there's no single prints above. They're all below. They go down to around 360. We had some really old ones way back here. We filled those in last week. That's where that tail was. We still have some down here. which is, what day is that? Last Wednesday. I think that was the FOMC day. You could kind of see this as an overnight fade, but it wasn't a complete one-directional overnight move, but kind of one-directional on NASDAQ here. And then you wiped out the overnight high there. Here's that NASDAQ level at 806. And then above that, we have 151, which is pretty far away. Did we miss anything here? There's not really anything in between that we can target. There's extremely weak value on all three of these days. Look at how weak this value is. Basically nothing, and basically nothing. So yeah, the next real level really is around 151. The NASDAQ was falling behind ES for a lot of the morning, value-wise. It's because it went for the gap fill. ES did not. But now it seems like NASDAQ is much more bullish. Look at the delta coming in. And you're still getting a lot of weakness on ES when it tries to break out. Yeah, Flory, I want to do more Apex giveaways. I just don't want to do them like so constantly that you guys just like get used to like me having all these accounts to give away, and I do them every single day. Because they're not gonna keep giving me a bunch of accounts, right? I don't want you guys to get too used to it. But yeah, I do want to do some more in the future for sure. funny enough, you're seeing the opposite of like last week because you don't have that very strong dollar correlation here because that data that came out this morning, it was actually pretty bullish for the dollar. You can see the dollar's just going straight up basically since the open. But we do not have that correlation. They're actually following each other, which is not what they're supposed to do. You're actually near the all-time high, which is crazy. Seeing how last week you were like on the cliff, getting ready to turn into a what could have been a bear market. It could have been a big drop, 10, 15%. And we're bouncing off that cliff. And now in 3 days, we're near the all-time high. That is the type of market we are in. You did have that strong failure on NASDAQ, which dropped it quite a bit. It dropped it around 5% from that VWAP. But now it's turning into a trap if it can close like this. You can't predict too far ahead. Like I said, you kind of have to take it day by day, especially because this week we have those chip companies, or I should say memory companies, doing their earnings. It was the weakest July for NASDAQ ever. Yeah, it was, like I said, it was like the damn near the bubble popping. It was like right on the cliff. Like the bubble popped short term momentum wise, but it didn't pop like actually popped, like going back to where it was. More single prints, by the way. Back to 600. Since we broke out of balance, we have not lost a singular node. Every single strong node it's put up on the high has been protected. That is a ridiculously strong move. So you had the pivot on the daily on NASDAQ. Watch that trail. Trail coming up in the next like 100 points or so, or where is that? No, sorry, I was way off. A few hundred points. We have not had a blue pivot since the bottom in April. And sorry, that's April 25, not 26. So over a year. Not my favorite place for a blue pivot because this can turn into like a stair step if it fails the trail. So it's very important to see how it reacts to the trail. Because if you put in a pivot like this where it's not, like here's a good example. So look at the pivot. Actually right here, perfect example. So you see how this pivot is like right after losing a range low? So you have to see how they respond to that pivot. Is it a stair step? And it was. It was a perfect stair step. And I can zoom this in to make it easier to see. It was literally a perfect stair step, like to the tick. So you put in the pivot, you lost it, you had that stair step pattern where you back test it, then it failed again. This pivot is a much better bottoming pivot because it's after an impulse down. So we have a big impulse down, then you put in the pivot, which also had a bull div, by the way, so that helped a lot. Then it turned into an actual bottom. Okay, so keep that in your head and then look at what's happening right now. So now we have another pivot here after a break of a distribution. So it could be a stair step, but for right now, it's okay. Right now, it's not a big problem. Just see how it reacts to that back test. If you break it, then it could be a stair step, meaning you could see a breakdown, a retest, something like that, right? It doesn't have that bearish impulse like the one prior to it. That's a very strong bearish impulse leading downward. So yeah, beautiful example in one little screenshot here. The difference between a stair-stepping pivot and like a bottom impulse pivot. And just to top it off, the bull div helped you a lot on the bottom one. Yeah, Rue, the only like higher strike rate entry that you had, let me fix this chart really quick. The only like really high strike rate entry that you had today was the break of balance. So you had the break of balance on the EMAs there, and then after that, you've literally just been riding the ADMA and the nodes the entire time. So if you don't like trading the retest of nodes or the retest of the EMAs, there's not really any other entries. It's just a very aggressive day. So the 5-minute lows, the EMAs, the nodes, they're just pushing you higher. This is the deepest retrace we've seen the entire time. You did fill in the upper single prints, not the lower ones. Good morning, Patriot. Yeah, it's like I was saying, they're just not losing any nodes. Like you could say they're losing this node here, but they're not losing these major nodes. You are pretty topped out on momentum here. You've got some room to climb on the 30. Is it extended on the 30 here? Why is trading you taking so long? There we go. Yeah, it's a little extended. So you have some room to climb, but it's a little extended. Momentum's kind of topped out. If it starts losing the second node, and especially this node here, because you could consider this 2 nodes or 3 nodes if you count all of them. So if we stay below 97, that's looking pretty bad for the buyers. It could just be a single print fill-in, so see how it reacts to 91. But you don't want to give up this node for too long. Liquidity is back. It has been pretty good today. It has been pretty good. You're hovering around that 30 to 40. No, last week it was a lot lower. But it was mostly because of the headlines and like the data and stuff. The Delta's doing a damn good job today. You are not seeing a ton of diversions. It's following price pretty much to a T. Could be a rollover here, but it's not a very good sweep. You just kind of died. Like the momentum died. Not exactly a sweep and then a retest. So more like a rollover in momentum, not a rollover setup. Yeah, back to what I was saying. You're just not losing these nodes. The nodes are being aggressively protected here. Good morning, Chuck. 30-minute lows not even being tested. They're being protected entirely, not even swept. Yeah, the oil market is just so damn confusing right now. Really hard to find a longer term trend. It does have a lot of pressure to the downside. Even like you can see because there's been like bad headlines coming out that should make it go up and then it still goes down. So it does have a ton of pressure downward. Yeah, the dollar correlation is pretty much dead right now. Very, very strong the last week or two, but right now it's not there. Yeah, there's just not much to say today, guys, besides the buyers are just in complete control. They're holding the EMAs, they're holding the candle lows, they're holding the nodes. There's just no sell pressure that is giving you any type of setup or reason to go down. Yeah, Jay, have a good day, man. Next target is 13 and then 32. Hey, Ryder, have a good day, man. Coming up on our first extended target. We've already hit all of our regular targets. Might be a headline here reacting with very high volatility, low liquidity. Trump is making statements, which is what's causing that little spike. No, you haven't heard of him. Hey, Chubby, have a good day, man. We'll see you tomorrow. But all right, guys, going into the afternoon here, we finished our trade plan to the upside on ES, not yet on NASDAQ, but our first target is damn near high of day, almost exactly. First target is 806. Second target is 151. If it continues to push on ES, our extended targets are 613, once again, pretty much high of day right here, and then 632. If it comes back down, you really got to watch these candle lows and the nodes. You have not lost like a single node until now. You're losing like the very top node right now. If it continues to lose nodes, watch those 5-minute lows and 30-minute lows. You keep losing those, you're going back into this rotation here. So you have that value retrace, that value rotation back down to the value low of today. So keep an eye on that. But for now, there are just no signs of that happening like whatsoever. The buyers are in complete control. If it goes back into value on ES, just look for that morning POC. That morning POC is around like 560 to 550. But all right, guys, I'm going to call it a stream there. I will be streaming in Discord for the rest of the day. If you guys are not in Discord, I will see you guys tomorrow, same time as always. If you guys enjoy the stream, hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe. We're only a few subscribers off 25K. I appreciate you guys all being here. I believe Apex is still doing their 90% off sale and the legacy accounts. You can use code BREW on those accounts. I did not have time to pull the raffle on the weekend. I will be pulling it today. So if you guys sent me your raffle tickets for the Apex accounts, keep an eye on your email. I'll be pulling a couple winners later today. And I'll get back to you on whatever email you use to send the receipts. But yeah, that's all I got, guys. Appreciate you being here. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you in Discord. If not, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace, everybody.